My name is Ben Crown. I am a co-captain of the mechanical sub-team.
What is the most interesting project you're working on?
The most interesting project I'm leading right now, I would say, is Field Elements, because they have a lot of construction of materials, and a lot of parts to cut, and a lot of assembly to do. It's always fun to put them together.
What's the most visual project you're working on?
I would say the most visual project that I'm leading right now is probably Chassis, because they've done most of the design stages and are actively creating drawings and then actually building the chassis.
Could you explain what chassis is?
So the chassis is the base frame of the robot that all payload, specialty, all other systems of the robot are mounted on. The chassis also includes the drivetrain, which this year will probably be mechanical.
My name is Ayush Agarwal and I am a mechanical captain.
What's different from last year's than this year's?
Last year's chassis was made of HDPE. This year we're using polycarbonate for the belly pan. There's more mounting space and allowing for electrical components. We have more area to mount to. The belly pan is a little bit below where everything else is mounted, so it allows the electrical components to kind of sit in an area where they won't be touched.
What are your hopes for this new chassis?
I hope that this chassis will allow us to go to Worlds and allow for all mounting of all of our subsystems and holds up during comp.
My name is Varun Natarajan. I'm on the electrical side.
Could you explain us about the CADing?
So basically what we do is in Onshape, we take models from MK CAD and we import it into the chassis CAD, and then we arrange the different components all around like our chassis.
I'm Victor and I'm from the programming sub-team, and this is the motor testing board. So basically what it is, it's like the simplest version of a robot, and we use it to test out different components. And basically I made a program to test out different motors for it, and you can see right here, it's just like the basic parts of a robot. This is a microprocessor called the Robo Rio. It holds the code that the robot runs on, and here is like the powering system. You have a big battery here, goes through a breaker, and goes through your breaker circuit board, like the kind you see in your house. And this gives electricity to the rest of the robot. In this case, our whole robot is just 3 motors. So right now, we're just using to test out these 3 motors for whatever purpose. It's just to test out different parts of the robot.
Well, I'm Francis Navarro Lim. I'm the Chief Marketing Officer for 612 Robotics.
So what is our strategy?
So our strategy this time around in the game sense for Reefscape, it is supposed to be a lot more manageable, something within our team's reach, and something that we can provide on a consistent scale throughout all of our games. This will include, for scoring wise, scoring in L1, scoring in L2 and L3, with a potentiality to score with algae, hopefully, but most definitely removing algae. We are going to do deep cage as well for our end game strategy. And we also have a predicted autonomous routine, which includes us leaving the barge parking zone and being able to score in the L1 trough at the start of the game in order to win us that ranking point for autonomous.
What steps are we going to take to reach our goals of our strategy?
So some things that have been going around and things that we decided to change for this build season this year in preparation for competition. Mainly because we want things to be a lot more centralized, things to be a lot more organized, and basically have a lot more cross-team dynamics as possible, and making sure that our operations run a lot more smoothly and we can get things done more efficiently. So that starts off with the biggest thing that we changed this year for 612 is establishing a design team. And this design team consists of members from all the 4 sub-teams, with the more senior and experienced members being able to lead each of these design teams. We have 4 focus groups right now, one being for chassis, of course, for our drivetrain stuff. The second one being for our payload. both for intake and outtake and transfer of items. And the third one is our specialty, which can be ranging from anything from autonomous to what we do in the end game, that kind of stuff. Each of these right now are tackling their own set of problems independently, but we make sure to have them talk with each other, make sure that they have open communications, so that way their designs don't conflict with each other, but they're still able to work autonomously and being able to get their work done in a much more efficient manner this time around. And another major change that we made this year is having a much more established build season schedule. Before, we did have like expectations and deadlines, but we didn't figure that would work out as much. So we try to make this one a lot more malleable, so that way whatever happens with our team, we can make sure it gets adapted to any unexpected changes and we're not falling behind. And also making sure that we can meet other expectations for the other sub-teams and what they have to do with the robot. The biggest thing this time around is we plan to finish the robot within 6 weeks, the whole design at least. We had projected 4 to 5 weeks for the whole robot to be designed and constructed and assembled, ready to be wired and programmed by a programming team at least 2 to 3 weeks before the actual competition. The sooner the better, basically. Right now, we are in our second week of build season, and with our first week being primarily focused towards designing and prototyping, we kind of went ahead and more so finalized the strategy, which I did just explain, and figuring out where we want to take our design process moving forward in regards to our design team. Right now, chassis should be mostly built. We already have like online CAD ready and it's already being used in order to construct the drivetrain. We've decided to go with Mecanum as our primary chassis and Swerve as our secondary. In case Swerve is able to work, but we went with Mecanum as a fallback option because it is a lot more reliable in past years. And we believe it'll just be a lot more well-rounded than Swerve as of currently, but that doesn't mean we have thrown out Swerve entirely. Payload design team has been split into 2 groups within their own little focus group. We have one for our primary design, which will be what we expected to use during competition. But in the case that we don't have that design ready or doesn't work as intended, we have a secondary design in progress right now, which they are still designing in order to hopefully serve as a backup just in case the first design fails in some capacity before competition, which we hope will not come to that sense. And finally, with our specialty team, they're still undergoing their own design. They're the later of all because they have to work around our payload and our chassis. And based on what the finished product is with them, specialty will be able to best move their design around what the robot is already capable of doing. Doesn't mean that they're being excluded. Specialty has been talked with both chassis and our payload group to make sure that all ideas are on the table, because this year this is a very, very interesting take for an end game. So what we're doing with field elements right now is we're trying our best to construct them as fast as possible, of course. They are going to be pretty big pieces this time around, going to be really tall because that's the aim of this game. And I'm going to make them very sturdy, going to resist, of course, the robot running at it at probably like 10, 12 miles per hour, pretty fast. They'll have really good cycle times because then we don't have to worry about breaking them apart. So that's the 2 main things. We're gonna make them quick enough for our prototyping and our testing phases, and we gotta make them strong enough so that they can withhold the robot. But we're already constructing the core reef. We are also constructing core station. Hopefully there will be a support for the deep cage as well, and we'll see if we need an algae processor, but it really is not a priority right now.
How did we work together our design?
So you already know, we already had a big design team meeting for kickoff. That is where we decided on a good strategy for our team that's really dependable. And since our first week was mostly filled with snow days, we weren't able to meet in person. So we had virtual meetings basically every day to ensure that the design team knows what they're doing and figure out like how viable our design concepts be able to work with our strategy. Right? Most of our virtual meetings were without mentors because we wanted a student-led effort, making sure that their ideas are mainly unfiltered, and so that way we can get the most unique approach to how we're doing from a student perspective. But of course we will have mentor review towards the end of the first week in order to make sure that our designs fit with our strategy and that it's viable for us to do so within the next 8 weeks. Right now, the captains are mainly floating between all of our design team focus groups, making sure that each one has their issues addressed for them. And we also have our leadership working tirelessly around the clock, making sure that all the projects are being through the deadlines and making sure that all missing components, our overall winning strategy is considered and is being addressed.
What are you most excited about for the start of the year?
I think I'm most excited about build season and specifically designing robot parts. And the executing them is also fun for sure, but I think designing is a whole interesting challenge in and of itself.
What are you most excited about for this year?
Going to Worlds. Yep. Hopefully we can make it through competition. The chassis doesn't take too much of beating. All of the subsystems work and integrate well, so we can make it further than we did in previous years.
For this year, I'm most excited about learning how an elevator design works and actually making it happen, because in the 4 years I've been in this team, I haven't actually worked with an elevator design.
I guess what I am most excited about for this year is to see the end product of what we're going to do, because there's a lot of ambition behind what we're doing. It's very exhilarating. Everyone's on their toes, what's going to happen, and time's moving really fast. So with all that considered, I honestly can't wait to see what our robot is going to be like, how our drivers are going to feel about it, and most of all, what the name of the robot's going to be. And I have an idea. That'll be a secret.